Hello and welcome to the Workhorse Podcast. Now, this week, to be really frank with you, I got sidetracked last week. Hardcore, we squirreled. The whole episode became about family and relationships and telling your story and not really about the business. And that's my fault because I segued down that path and then we dove into that path. And then that's really all you got to hear. So essentially what I'm trying to say now is welcome to part 2.
I feel like you're taking too much responsibility. I definitely fishing lured you down that trail because you said you would talk about it one day. And I felt like we had that glimmer of hope that we could talk about it last week. So part 2 it is on your business journey.
I do love though. Thank you so much for everyone that has sent me DMs. I got quite a few DMs and it makes me feel so much less crazy, less crazy. Yeah.
Or less alone.
Yeah, I mean, any number of the things, but just essentially thank you. You know, you always wonder at the end of the podcast, if I say DM me, is anyone going to DM me? And you guys DM'd me. And I immediately felt like, yes, there's a reason why I talked about that and aired family drama.
All the tea. So if you missed the tea from last episode, go back to episode 25, listen to that one, and then come here. And now we are going to stay on track. And the track is Jess's business journey, how she ended up where she is today. I feel like we kind of left off right at the cusp of Gather.
Yeah, I think we talked through just starting it. I was still a deputy and living off the ranch and started it.
Okay, so my first question for you is, what inspired you to start it?
I don't even think I can say it was inspired. Is that fair? I mean, it's fair. I can say
Well, was there
I want,
a specific moment that sparked the idea that became Gather?
Oh, are we talking Gather specific?
Yes. Gather specific. What started the decision that you wanted to get a bunch of rural women together for in-person community building events? What sparked that for you?
Well, originally there was an event that I went to that was absolutely not what I wanted for rural women in business. And it was a very clear example of we need to do better and we need to, I never want a woman to leave an event with me feeling the way that I watched women leave that event. And so that was a jarringly bad spark, I guess.
What not to do?
Yeah, it was 100% a lesson in what not to do, how to not treat people well, how to overvalue and under-deliver your results. And so I think I didn't know it at the time. When I went through that experience, I didn't realize that was going to spark Gather ultimately, but that kind of lived as this don't be that person. This don't be that person moment. And so then when I started in weddings was our first Moose Valley Ranch business activity. There's a lot of rural women involved in weddings, especially anything around a barn or country, the florists and the photographers and the caterers and all the things. And they're usually women service providers out here, at least. And so it was man, we're all operating in a vacuum. We should get together and meet and how many cool things could come of this. And so that it kind of started, I guess, twofold: how not to treat people and then community.
And I mean, that's the first time that I came to Moose Valley Ranch was Gather.
That's the first time a lot of people had come to the ranch. It's not like we were some well-known business at that point.
Second time I had ever met you. I met you the time, and then you slid into my DMs asking if I would come to Gather.
That's because you were the only one that spoke at that event that I was talking about that I felt was worth asking for a keynote.
Everyone's going to put 2 and 2 together on
they
that.
Know. They know.
The tea is.
Listen, I don't feel like getting hit with a cease and desist right now, so we'll just leave it at that. But
I may have spoke at that event, and then Jess slid into my DMs.
Your speech was so good. It was so good.
Thank you.
And I remember taking so much from it and just immediately being okay, this is the reason why I was here. As crappy as the rest of most of it was, that was like, oh, okay, here's my reason for being here. And so Gather, I mean, we started Gather. I had basically no followers. I had basically no business. I mean, to be honest, I think I had done like a few weddings and a failed pumpkin patch at that point. Like, who I thought I was to be the ringleader of chaos that was Gather, to bring all these women together. But obviously, I mean, it worked out for some reason because it worked. I just don't know if there was like an intentional
I mean,
of it.
yeah, it worked because it was fantastic, and it was the polar opposite of that. So the first time when you invited me down, you invited me to speak, and you like slid into my DMs, and you're like, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you at insert blank event. And I was wondering, I'm doing this thing, and it's like bringing women together. And I mean, as most of our listeners who've been with us for a while know, I'm in a different country. So that I like did the Google of Springdale, because I'm like, I don't even know where that is. And it ended up being only 2 hours from my house. So I was like, yeah, I'll come and do that. And I went to one single Gather. It was magic. And I went to every single one after that as a guest, because I spoke one more time. Yeah, I came back one more time as a speaker, but like anytime I wasn't speaking, I was attending as a guest, because it was exactly the opposite of that. Like, I remember you saying to me, a woman came by herself. And I remember you came up to me, you were really busy, and you were just like, Kendall, see that woman that's walking up? She's here by herself. Do you mind just like welcoming her into the fold? And it was just such, as somebody who has spoken at so many different events, I have never had somebody who's attended a lot of events. And I attend events as a keynote individually, where I'm coming to an event by myself. And I just really have never seen anybody like cognizantly aware of women who are joining individually and who don't have a group of women with them on arrival, and making sure that they aren't just like awkwardly standing there, that they're welcomed in. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing.
Yeah, I took a different approach to, I think, women in ag events in general. Like, if you're going to say ag or rural events, like a lot of times, right, we're in some hotel banquet room on crappy round tables with cold chicken on a paper plate. Yeah. And that's kind of the like rah sis boom bah of it, is just really not a lot given to. And I think that was where the wedding overlap was, is I saw the effects of a very beautifully done, well presented aesthetic, for lack of a better word, and how little we as rural women treat ourselves to things that nice. Like, I couldn't, before our first Gather, I couldn't have told you the last time I had sat down at an event that had real flower centerpieces or real forks and knives. And like, that to me, and that will continue to be one of my biggest like things, is real plates and real silverware. Like, if you're serving steak, there needs to be a knife that can cut through it and a fork that doesn't break, and real glasses. And it just, because like it tangibly felt more
luxury.
Yeah, luxury more. And I really felt like these are women that don't get to spoil themselves very often. So you're already like getting the sitter, paying the ticket, making the drive, covering the chores, whatever else it took for you to get there. Like, I'm not going to serve you cold chicken on a freaking paper plate. And so I think that was a bit of a different take to it that a lot of people hadn't seen. You know, I think maybe just now associations are starting to pick up on like the branding side of that.
Yes.
How do you explain that? Like, they're still pretty far behind, most of them. I mean, a lot of them just don't care. Like, cold pizza, pop open the lid, hold the meeting. And it's not a thing. And I really wanted it to be a thing. So that was important to me, was doing that upright. And then, including women, because we're so isolated. That was why Gather started in the first place, is because I'd have a conversation with like this woman over here, and then that woman over there. And then this other woman would slide into my DMs, and they would all three be saying the same thing about how like they're so lonely and they're doing this alone and it's so hard and there's nobody around them and everyone looks at them like they're crazy. And I was like, man, we should get all four of us in the same room, or all 64 of us, 54 of us in a room, because there's like real power in that.
And I guarantee Like, lovingly, the women who attended Gather have been called Gather Girls.
Mhm.
And
love
I
that.
know that there are Gather Girls right now that are listening to this podcast. And I know because it was such a deep community. And there was so much, all of a sudden you'd see these women who had met at the event and they were suddenly doing like a collab together, or they were
Mhm.
working with each other, or they were hiring each other for different things. Like, the woman who makes the promo ball caps is suddenly making them for this rancher over
Yeah.
here. And then, somebody else is featuring their stuff in the other girl's store. And it was just a really cool, I have countless items from like in my closet and things like that from women that were like attendees of Gather.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part, was watching the, like, spider webs that would come out of sort of the center of it being this event, and then watching how it would just, like, keep growing and keep growing and keep growing, and it really hammered home the power of connecting in person with other women in your area that are doing similar things to you. And we aren't in town. We don't get working Women's Wednesdays where if you're not plugged in
Mhm.
already, you can go down and have a martini. Like, there was no one actively creating that space locally. And so we just started that. I mean, you could find communities online. And I think that was at the time, especially because COVID, super popular. But you'd be like chatting with a girl from Illinois, talking to a
Yeah.
farmer from New York. And it's like, you're never going to see them, like truly.
And honestly, as somebody who has I spent a significant number of years developing community online in part of the teaching through marketing for farmers. And I mean, I'm not trying to act like there's not value in that, but it's just not the same. Like,
It's
it's
not.
just not the same. Like, what happens at a Gather event, what happens at an in-person retreat when we were doing retreats for
Mhm.
the Workhorse Collective, like those types of things, you cannot duplicate that in an online. And I've got lots of friends, like quote unquote friends that,
Right.
I chat with on DMs, and I, would be somebody I would run a question by and stuff like that. It's just not the same. You don't get that same kind of community. And it's such a beautiful thing to have that in your actual physical community, where if something hits the fan, you can call somebody up and they can actually come to you and help with whatever it is that you need help with. And you can't get that the same through online.
Yeah. Same, I mean, same with the collaborations and things like that. It was like, oh, all of a sudden they did know an apparel maker in the local community. They did know somebody to buy their beef from in the local community. And I love that so much. I still love that. It's just that life has changed.
Yeah. So tell us how the transition, or how you started doing, because for a while you were doing Gather and Market in the Mountains at the
Mhm.
same time. What was that transition like, and how did that all come about?
Well, Gather spurned Market because I was finding this is what I love about Gather. It was such a thing that people would dress up to come to it. Like, that it was, you dug the dress out of the back of the closet
Oh no,
and
girl,
shined
you
up.
bought a dress.
Okay,
I
you bought a
bought a
dress.
dress. I
You
bought an
bought a
outfit
dress.
for Gather
You probably
multiple
bought some
times.
turquoise. You
Yeah.
probably maybe even a new pair of boots. And so it was like, it was such a thing to dress up. And so we tried name tags a couple times, and I would look over and just see like them slowly start to slide in their purse, or like they'd get set on the
Oh
table
yeah.
because it didn't go with the outfit, and you don't want that in your pictures, and I don't blame them. But girls would go like the whole night visiting and chatting and all this stuff, and then at the end of the night they'd be like, "Oh, you're the girl with the purse, or you're the girl that does the
Yeah.
thing." And it's like, oh man, okay, we really got to try to like make those connections earlier. And so we had the idea to have the girls like bring stuff, like set up a little table, set up a rack, whatever, like of what you do, closed, ticketed event. So it's not like people are going to steal it, right? Like you can set it
Yeah.
up and wander away.
Yeah.
And so they did, and it was the pictures of that online is I got a ton of DMs from followers, and I didn't have like an overwhelming amount of followers at the time. I mean, a couple thousand, I think, at that point. And the number of DMs compared to my number of normal followers was just like, what is this? Where is this? Where did you find those? Can I come shop that? Is that open to us? And I was like, oh crap. I guess we better have like a market for Gather girls. And then it became, because there really wasn't like an outdoor Western market. And that's what all the Gather girls were. So we
And
started a market.
I feel like that is such a prime example of listening to your community to give them what they want and develop the business. I think so often we look at it and we're like, oh, I really love blank, so I'm going to have a business doing blank. And I'm not saying that doesn't work, but if you feel and see a hole in your community because your community is literally telling you that they want to be able to have that, or you're hearing that complaint or you're hearing that desire from somebody, fill the hole. Fill the need that you are seeing. And that was the prime example, is everybody was sliding into your DMs to be like, how come I didn't get an invite to this? How do I go and buy? Why can't I buy the turquoise? And I mean, the women who attended Gather have crazy skills.
Oh my God,
I vividly remember buying turquoise the next morning of the event, and sitting outside the farm school the next morning because I crashed at your house, and women who had camped in the field after Gather be like, can I see your turquoise? And sitting there with my cup of coffee in the morning and just draining my bank account.
Your my hands covered in turquoise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Turquoise, all the rings, all the earrings, all the things. And then having to claim it at customs on the way through. You bring anything back? Just hundreds and hundreds of dollars in turquoise. But they were just wildly talented.
Wildly talented. And I don't think there was a super great home for them up here at that point. And we had seen a lot of festivals die off during COVID, and volunteer groups that just folded and didn't come back. So I don't know. I started a market. Apparently I should have had a Red Bull today. Sorry, I haven't had one yet. I should text CJ and tell him to bring me a Red Bull. Anyways, so I started a market. Nowhere in that process did I think that Market in the Mountains would become by far our biggest revenue grossing activity on the ranch. That was never. I mean, you guys, if you follow me all, you've heard that my dad, the first market afterwards, so the morning after he came down, we were all having breakfast, everybody that had stayed, and he tapped his, guys, he's an old farmer, so I got to paint the picture for you, right? He always wears, if people are around, a nice button down with a little front, what do they call those? Lapel pocket?
Little pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, the little pocket. And he likes to keep a pen and a tire pressure gauge and a little notebook in there. And so he walks up to us and he pats his pocket and he's like, I didn't think that was going to work, but I have some notes for next year. And I'm like, first of all, thank you. Second of all, don't give me notes right now. I'm not in the brain space to receive criticism.
I remember that moment, making breakfast on the Blackstone. I was probably buying turquoise with my coffee because that was my go-to. And I remember him doing that little chest tap of didn't think it would work, but guess it did. And I got notes for next year.
Yeah, we need to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah, suddenly it was we. Yeah, he weed all over that.
I love him for that. I mean, to be honest, I kind of felt oh my God, he recognized that I actually did it.
Yes.
But then I also was like, wait a minute, that's kind of a backhit. You didn't think that would work? Okay. And I still I don't know, a couple months ago, a good friend of mine, they're farmers in the area, farmers and ranchers, and he's a lot like my dad. And I stopped by, somebody wrecked out on their fence on the corner, and I stopped in to make sure he knew because he has bulls in that field. And so I was like, I better make sure Randy knows his fence is down. So I pulled in. It's pretty late at night. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, just want to let you know there's a car through your fence.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there chatting with him, and he comes in, and I don't know, conversation ensues. And then he's like, I gotta tell you, whatever you're doing over there, it's just crazy. And if you asked me, I would tell you that was never going to work. That would never work. And I'm like, well, hey, you going to come this year? Because I know he hasn't come at all. His wife does, but he doesn't. And I was like, so you're going to come this year? You're going to come? And he's like, oh, I might have to.
There's a whole men's section.
There is. But he didn't care. He's not a people person. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
He is that. The only way that man is showing up in a crowd is if there is an auction on farm equipment or a bull sale. You know what I mean? I'm aware.
Yeah.
But it was very funny because I'm just now, 4 years after, you're going to tell me that you didn't think it would work and you thought I was crazy. So Good times.
Well, I mean, arguably, I don't think that many would have expected it to have grown to the size that it did. And that is not
True. Yeah.
that is not lacking your ability. That is just simply, it is such a small town. It is like, it's just not something that I think anybody would think that anybody was pulling off in some of these small communities to the scale that it is. Because it started with just like the next day after Gather. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Gather,
so I'm remembering that right.
Don't quote me on it. Gather was one day, like Friday maybe. And then Market was the next day for 4 hours. So it was just like a 4 to 8 at night.
Yeah.
And I told people, like, if you need to sleep there, you can camp in the field.
And it is now what?
I mean, it's 2 full days. Well, a day and 3/4 and big.
I feel like I'm really gonna have to fish out the stuff. You're like, I'm kind of a big deal. No, I'm just kidding. But
I mean, because I think a part of me still feels like that girl that set it up for 4 hours in the field. Like, okay, I don't feel any different. It is different. It is wildly different. So we went.
Okay, so last year you did a 2-day market.
Yep.
And that was year 3 or 4?
Year 3? I think it was year 4.
Year 4. Okay, so last year was year 4.
No,
I think it's only 3.
20, that was 3. That was the third one.
This is 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I don't even think I've known you for like, I mean, I know I've known you for longer than that, but it hasn't been in like crazy longer than that. Okay. So market is now 2 days. Last year, how many people in attendance?
3,500 roughly. So I say roughly because we don't charge for 16 and under. So unless I wanted to go physically count the number of children signed through on the waiver sheets, I have to estimate.
Yeah. Okay.
So 3,500.
Do you have any idea am I allowed to ask what you think the economic impact?
Oh, you can ask because I've already actually, so I know
you know the figure. I know the figure, but I just wasn't sure if you were going to share the figure.
A little background. There are certain things like rural economic tourism multipliers by counties that basically say, like, if someone's coming into the area for something you're doing, there are assumed averages of like, they're going to buy at least 1 tank of gas and they're probably going to stop to get a coffee and whatever. Like, I don't know the science behind all of them, but essentially you can go to your state, to the tourism agency of your state, and then look it up by county. And you can find this like tourism multiplier, and that addresses both indirect and direct. So there's the direct economic impact, which would be the amount of dollars specifically either spent through me for tickets or spent through my vendors on goods and product. That's considered direct economic impact. Indirect is all of the people that drove in, that bought gas, that stopped and got ice, that grabbed a hotel room because they didn't want to drive back, all of that. So total includes both direct and indirect, and is based on a multiplier. So it's not like, I just don't want someone to be like, oh, she thinks she knows exactly. I'm like, no, this is based on a estimation. It's a whole thing. It's a formula. $1.15 million was our economic impact last year.
And I feel like
on a conservative multiplier.
And I want to add to that. The multiplier is trusted enough that it is what gets you grant funding for advertising.
It's like a state proven.
It's like not proven. It's not like
I made it up.
Dug it out into her purse and was like, this is the number we're going to use and it's going to be great. So
no, it's how they calculate, like, even tourism industry and stuff is like, if you have national parks in your area, how do you, the number of cars that come through the gates get given, this is how much estimated they spend locally. That's how they get those numbers. So I just happen to know that. And so I put a bunch of information into, like, we're a family friendly event. So that actually changes our multiplier, because that means that they have kids on average. Like, there's more likely to be families with children, and with children, the multiplier changes because you generally spend more money when you have kids, because you have more people to feed, and like it goes on and on. Anyways, you can get deep into that as you want. I can give you my 10-page economic impact analysis if you would like it, because I have it.
I was just really curious because I think it's such a cool, like, ripple effect that you don't see with a lot of other things that happen on agricultural land, where, and I'm in farming. I'm not shooting the egg space, but you just don't necessarily like the people who are coming to my farm store to pick up beef from me. Don't get me wrong. There's multipliers in that I have local suppliers and I'm not discrediting that. It's just where the money goes in your community is wildly different than if you were egg focused.
Yeah,
and
your
I just
money
think
is
that's
dispersed through you, your
yes,
suppliers, your products, your inputs. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I create a ton of economic
Absolutely.
growth through the people I hire and through that, but it's not the same as like people who come to my farm store are not also stopping for X, Y, and Z. They're not staying over. They're not doing all of those things, which makes it a really unique situation. And also my community is bigger than 200 and a handful people.
Doesn't take much to be bigger than Springdale.
That is such, I mean, my ranching community is 171, so it's smaller, but I'm telling you, I could never imagine an event like Market in the Mountains where I ranch. And it's not that much different population. And I could not even imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I imagined it though. Truly, it's amazing. So I took the numbers. So I ran the numbers 3 ways. There's like conservative, moderate, and aggressive estimates for growth based on all sorts of numbers. So I put in like my ticket data and based on our historical growth, yada, yada, yada. On a moderate assumption, what is our growth for next year looking like? Obviously, knock on wood. I literally found wood. Knock on wood, like weather being good and different things like that. There is like the assumption of growth can happen. And based on all of that model, can you tell I was an econometrics nerd?
Okay, I was waiting for you to have a pause so that I can say, if you're new here with us, Jess also works full-time in rural economic development. So the words coming out of her mouth actually mean something. She is not like, if I start having this conversation on this podcast, somebody roll your eyes at me because I will not know what I'm talking about. Jess actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to this.
I also have a degree in economics. That was what my bachelor's was in. So I was an econometrics nerd. I love the numbers behind and the way that you can extrapolate values and projections out of widgets, essentially. Strange full circle moment there. But so we projected for 2025, we projected on a moderate multiplier over $2 million in local economic impact.
That's huge.
It is huge. It is a gobsmacking number. Like, it gives me goosebumps just to think about that we've created that much change within our community. And that doesn't even touch the like amount of money I pay out to local vendors to run things like the $11,000 for bathrooms. Like, that's going straight to people in my local area. It doesn't touch the fact that I just got to sponsor the local fair banners. We have a little teeny tiny 1-day fair. It's the cutest fair I've ever seen. And they needed sponsorships for their show banners for like the kids that are doing showmanship. And I just bought a bunch of them. I was like, yeah, done. Because I can. And I love that. And I grew up in the fair and my kids are going to be in the fair. And I want to be the business that shows up in my local community. So we've given back I've given out tickets to market for auctions, for like benefit things, for the local rodeo queens, for, I mean, all sorts of things. And so it doesn't even begin to touch that side of it, that's probably my favorite part, is the giving back, which sounds so cliched, guys. Like, I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back, but like truly being able to say yes to them. And like, heck yeah, like we can do this, this, and this. And knowing that I'm not like not paying my electricity bill because of it or something is so cool to me. And then it's awesome to see your name up there on stuff and see kids taking pictures with it. And you're like, that's the business that I have killed myself for 5 years to make it to the point where we can have our name on stuff. It is so cool. I love that. I'm just like, I'm going to take a minute and just be in my little happy spot over here because like we did that. So.
And something really cool that's new for this year is that you have billboards.
Billboards. It's wild. I never thought, what's so funny too? I'm just, because it's a podcast. That picture that's on the billboard is actually me. So like I'm on a billboard. You can't tell it's on my face. Like it's a silhouette.
It's
So
like a silhouette backlit. But I mean,
that sees
if you know, you know.
Now
well,
you know.
I mean, if people know you and know market, they know it's you. Like,
Yeah, but
I think it's easy to tell it's you, but
really?
I mean, yeah.
Not a lot of people don't realize
and
that.
Jay knew it was you, and Jay would have had no reason to know it was you.
That is crazy. Maybe it's super distinct. I don't know. I thought, oh, it's low key because it's not my like face.
Yeah, it's not just like a giant picture of Jess smiling. Don't worry, guys.
No, it's like my silhouette. Anyways,
my office smells of rich mahogany and leather-bound books.
If I'm ever that much of a douche canoe, somebody smack me. No, so we're on a billboard. We will be on 2 more before the end of the summer. And I absolutely freaking love it. You guys, just before we hopped on and started recording, I actually checked my messages and I had a message from someone that was like, I passed your billboard and it was so cool. And I'm just like, every time I get that, I'm like internally like jumping up and down, losing my mind because I'm like, how did we do that? So
I think one of the coolest things, and this kind of is part of the giving back, and I don't want to misquote who it is that does the work. So you always have teenagers that work at market and they help with like the emptying garbage cans and stuff. What organization are they from again?
The ones from last year were from Newport FFA. They were high schoolers.
Okay, so FFA. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I love about that is because sometimes I'm like around those kids throughout the day. And so like I've had an opportunity to talk to some of them. And I just think it's really cool because we see it as like, okay, the economic give back, the ability to support other businesses, other makers, bakers, all the things that are coming to market and create a fun activity. But I think one of the things that impresses me the most is when these teenage girls are coming and helping out at market. And you can see that they can see a possibility in their community that they didn't see before. And I think that we need more of that in rural small towns where, I mean, I know we've talked about it before. If you can't see a path for success, you don't stay. And then we have women who are leaving as, young women, like just graduated teenagers in their early 20s that leave the farm and leave the ranch and leave the community because they don't see a place for themselves. And I think that's so cool that they can go take part in these like fun 2-day experiences. And yes, they're working and they're getting money.
I don't think they think it's fun because they have to work their butts off.
They do, but they're making money for their organization. But also they're seeing that it is possible to stay in your small town and dream big and do things that, go against the grain of what others think is possible in a small town like that. And I think that impact is not measurable, but I think it's huge.
I always seem to end up with teenage girls working for me, and I love every minute of it. They are some of the hardest workers I've ever met. I rarely have the issues with them that I tend to with young boys. And
I hire all teenage boys.
That's why we always talk about like you have some of the best guys, and then I don't know what it is. I get the best girls, and they work so freaking hard, and I really hope that they see that. And in fact, I know they do because one of the girls that has worked for me off and on through the years is away at college now, and she just came back and she's got big plans for like her family's ranch to open her own butchery and storefront. And she tells me all the things and I love every minute of it. And now who knows, her life may change 15 more times. She may fall in love with a Nebraska farm boy and never come home. I keep telling her dad that's a possibility.
Is that the girl with the dark brown hair?
No, that's the girl with
really
the
like
curly
her
blonde hair.
Too. Oh yeah. You've got that brunette that's fantastic too.
I'm trying to think now.
She was with the FFA kids last year.
Yeah. All those FFA kids are awesome. And don't get me wrong, the boys are great hard workers. Like, especially that FFA group really showed me, man, there's hope for our kids. Because sometimes in law enforcement, you deal with some kids and you're like, oh my God, this generation's going to be the one that ends it all for us. And that is not the case with those kids. They're so good.
I feel like that's why I like working with young people so much is I think that they never get enough credit. And then when you actually work with them, you're like, okay, the older generation needs to stop saying that this generation is like the worst thing to come out of the world, because I never have problems with our young staff, knock on wood, but
I know, I was like, find wood.
Yeah.
Find wood now.
So
No,
far.
and I think it is interesting to, that's one of the things I anticipate as we grow more. I mean, obviously, I have goals and different stuff on my own, is hiring, how difficult
Yes.
hiring can be in a small town, and finding, like, reliable, trustworthy help is asking a lot, I feel like. Maybe I'm
For
wrong,
sure.
but
For sure. We've had to do it and it is tough. And I don't wish that upon anyone, that
gee, thanks.
end of
And I
things.
think that's where we're pushing to growth-wise, is it will soon I'll either have to give up my full-time job or hire extensively, probably. And I don't know. I mean, I really love my job. So anyways, I've done all this with a full-time job.
Which
That's
I like shake my head at every freaking time. I mean, we just had this conversation. Although you reprimanded me back last weekend, so I feel like, I was like,
wasn't a
did you?
reprimand.
No, but you like, did you see I posted looking for somebody?
I'm sorry. I went offline this weekend. I like truly went
yes.
offline. I was not on. I
Yes.
couldn't even doom scroll, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I downloaded some new books and I didn't even doom scroll because I would get in one or two stories and I just couldn't stomach it. So I just took 4 days off. I think it was like one of my longest breaks since market, which
Okay.
wasn't bad. But no, I did not see that. But I am proud of you for that.
So I regularly tell Jess that I think she needs to hire or
Quit my job.
like
You can
how
say
long.
it. My boss knows.
Okay.
Like
I
she
regularly
says I
I was
can't,
just
but she's like
trying
she's
to, like,
aware. No,
I was just trying to like
I
be
don't know if she
careful.
listens to the podcast. Hey,
Well, just
Kelly,
in
if you
case.
listen to this, let me know.
I said to Jess the other day, I was like, so when are you quitting your job? Because this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, no, I really like my job. And so we had that back and forth. But then I was down with Jess and having a conversation with her about work. And she was like, you need to outsource something in your life. Anyways, I have 2 meetings this week with VAs.
Good.
And I
wait,
think
like VAs?
Okay, and I put that out into the world, and I got 4 DMs from women from group coaching that were like, "Are you going to tell them that you hate working with VAs?" I was like, "Yes, I am going to have that conversation in advance."
Oh, I can't wait to see how this plays out.
I know. I'm just trying. No, I know. We're not going to get deviated down the rabbit hole, but
okay,
I will circle back with my VA journey. That you guys can take this journey with me.
We should do a VA episode.
We should. And we can do one as soon as I get my VA. And when it blows up in my face, I can talk about it.
I have a VA and I love it. And I've had a VA because I was employed full time. That was one of the things that I realized, okay, I could hire some help every month for things that would enable me to keep working for less than paying for someone full time. I mean, right. Like obviously I wasn't going to pay someone else's full-time salary before I paid my own. So I went with the VA route. And it's been great. I mean, has there been hiccups, obviously, along the way? Yes, of course, like anything, there's going to be. But for the most part, having a VA on a monthly retainer has helped us be able to grow and not. So, like, if you are in a spot where you're not convinced you want to give up your daytime job, but it's getting to be so much that you can't do both, then there's options. That's how I've done it, is VA and then work, like a full extra job after you work your job. So, like today I started work at 6 a.m. and I got off at 2 and then we started recording a podcast at 3 and then I'll be done about 4:30 and then I had to a meeting at 5:30 and then I'll get home at 7 and hang out with my kids.
No one wants that balance, Jess.
I love it. I don't know what everyone's complaining about. I love working. There are days I don't love everything, but like I'm not a good sit down person. I just don't sit well. So I think that's part of it too, is I hear a lot of women that are like, it's just been too much. I need a break. And I'm just like, give me more, pile more on my plate. I can take more. But to be fair, like we've scaled way back on Gather when we were doing Gather. And I say we, because I started it with a friend of mine, Alex, and we were doing it twice a year. Then it became just me doing it. And yeah, it's a lot. And it wasn't a revenue producer. So we kind of transitioned less and less. And I think a lot of connections have been made. And I just don't know if it's like the time in the journey to let it go or not. I haven't decided yet. I keep getting messages like, hey, are we having a Gather this year? Because generally it's in the summer.
Yeah.
Is Gather happening? And I'm just like, I'm not answering the question.
Yeah. I feel like market has just gotten to be such a beast that,
Yeah.
and the relationships, like for a while you were doing 2 gathers a year.
Mhm.
And I feel like the relationships have been created.
Yeah.
Like the goal of gather, and I know you haven't made the decision, and I'm certainly not making the
Right.
decision for
No,
you,
I know.
like at all. But I think that if you were to decide that that wasn't something that you wanted to continue to do, I think that the goal has been met.
Yeah.
You
I
built
think that might be part of it too, is
like it
I don't
almost feels
feel
like the circle, like the
Yep.
goal was
Mhm.
accomplished
Yep.
very successfully. The
Mhm.
relationships are continuing on their own.
I
So
know,
if
it's so
you needed,
cool.
and a lot of the gather girls still come and sell at market. And so like
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
still see them, and like I mean, the bar stayed open late that one night with all the vendors, and like I enjoyed getting to sit out there and have a drink with them after everything was over and listen to music and stuff like that. And it still had that same,
Yeah.
group of women getting to have time to connect again in person. It's just they're also making money at market then.
Yeah, and there's some more now in-person groups around in the area, and there's some more even probably I would say we were more regionally with Gather because we
Yes.
would pull from anywhere, like from the west side of the state, from Montana, from southern Idaho.
Oregon?
So, yeah, it was a big region, and now I'm seeing, like, the elk community, like, the one community, and there's 10 or 15 women that are me and so I'm here for it. Like, those women are doing amazing things. I think anytime you can get people in person, if you're hesitant because someone is charging for it, don't be. Like, just that was like I will say that was one of my biggest frustrations around Gather. And let me caveat that with I never marked up Gather tickets ever. Like it was estimates of the cost of food and speakers and flowers, and if there was a couple $100 left at the end, it just rolled into the next one so that I
Yeah.
wasn't cuz sometimes they'd be more than I thought it was going to be. I never marked up tickets. I never paid myself for my time, and I never paid myself for the facility or the rentals, the use of the tables, nothing ever. And getting griped at for people having to pay for it, I'm like, there is value in this, and someone, me, is killing themselves to put it together for you in a very beautiful way. Like, appreciate that.
Yeah.
My gripe.
I know. And that feels like it comes out of everything. Like it doesn't
It
matter
does.
what we do. And I think that until you've done something like that, until you've executed, not saying anybody who
Right.
hasn't executed something like that has that mentality, but I think those people who do get that mentality, if they just did it once, like
Oh, God.
if you just had to throw an event, because like we used to do long table events at the farm and we also didn't make profit on it. We did it as getting our name out there and getting customers to like learn about the farm. So it grew our company fast. So it helped us with revenue, but there was zero direct financial
Yeah.
benefit. In fact, it was the opposite because I'd always take Saturdays at market off because we'd have to be wrapping up. So I'd actually like because I'd lose my sales on Saturdays
Mhm.
afterwards. Long, big vision. Absolutely, it did wonders for us financially, but no direct revenue was produced. And people would be like, "What do you mean you're charging $185 a ticket?" I'm like, "That's what it costs, Susan. That's what it costs."
I was
Well, I
waiting
didn't
for
want to
you to
say
say
Karen in
Karen. I
case your
was
mom was
waiting for you to
listening.
say Karen.
Karen,
I
if
don't
you're
know if she
listening, I
does.
had your back.
No, and I think so. I think definitely my focus had to shift. And this, I mean, we haven't even touched on like the hosted hunts and the weddings that continue. The weddings kind of ebb and flow depending on what we have going on the ranch, because those are a pretty big lift. And then the hosted hunts and the camping and now the geodome pushing into it. But like the geodome and market really have to carry the company financially. And we are at a point where there are real costs and there are real expenses and there are real expectations for us to make profit off of it, because quite frankly, if we don't, the tax bill alone is going to kill us on it. So I feel like maybe have left the baby business stage, right? Like you start a business and you
You're so far
um
past the baby
oh,
business
I
stage.
know, but we were like I still feel like, and hopefully this is me remaining humble, I still feel like there is so much to learn and so much to experience on my business journey. Like, this is high hope that when I am 70 years old, I can play this podcast for my kids and be like, listen to when Granny just started the business and look at you guys with your like 7,000 square foot air conditioned farm store and your on-site creamery with custom gelato scooping for your resort stays at the cabins, of which there's 35 and a horse rental facility. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's where it could go in my brain.
So if you missed the episode about the geodomes, because Jess did vaguely, like a little bit touch on it, episode 17, Fear of Failure and Imposter Syndrome, talks about that part of the Moose Valley Ranch journey of Jess starting the geodome. So I will link to that in the show notes.
Yeah. I mean, and like, good on you for going back and finding that episode, because now we've done so many episodes. We are half a year's worth of podcasts under our belt.
Of weekly podcasts, you guys.
First of all, we never thought we would be able to maintain the weekly thing.
I will be truthful. Jess called me. She has my location on her phone. She's like, I see you're heading towards your house in your car. Because she looked at my little dot moving. She's like, you're right by the airport. We need to record a podcast and it needs to be today. So here I am. I was gardening. I'm going to continue to garden when we're done this podcast. Brief intermission. Actually, it's perfect because it's like the middle of the day and it's scorching hot right now. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for half a year. If you like, I so appreciate it. If you guys like the podcast, we would love if you would subscribe to the podcast. If you would leave a review, we would love it even more.
You know what you guys feel when people review your business and they send you like awesome comments about how great a product is or something? You know how you feel when you get one of those? We get that every time you send us something like that on the podcast.
Yeah, because otherwise it feels like we're speaking into the void. So we really love it when you do that. And continue to hang out with us for the next 6 months of podcasting.
Oh my God, we got to go brainstorm some topics.
And we will be back next week.
Guess what? Market in the Mountains tickets are officially live. And if you have never experienced this event, you are in for something special. Think amazing local vendors, live music echoing through the mountains, and food that'll make you forget you're out of market. And the views, they're absolutely incredible. New this year, VIP tickets are available for the ultimate experience with exclusive access and premium perks. These are super limited. Grab your favorite fringe accessory and get your tickets now. The link is in the show notes. You don't want to miss it.